police officer walks up to your car window and says, "You don't mind if I take a quick look inside your vehicle, right?" Or maybe you're walking through a train station, an airport, or down the street, and an officer asks, "Mind if I check your bag real quick?" Your heart starts racing. You haven't done anything wrong, you don't want to look suspicious, you don't want to make things worse. So what do most people do? They say one dangerous word. Sure. And just like that, a voluntary encounter can become a full legal search. What do you do in that moment? What should you say? Can police legally search your car or bag just because they asked? And what happens if you say yes without realizing what you just gave up? In this video, you'll learn exactly what police are trying to do when they ask for consent to search, the mistakes people make under pressure, the safest ways to respond, and the exact words rights attorneys recommend using during these encounters. Because one sentence can completely change what happens next. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Every video here could save you from a serious mistake one day. Subscribe now so you don't miss what could protect you. Then share this video. And drop your opinion below. I want to hear what you think. When an officer asks, "Do you mind if I search your car?" they are often trying to get something extremely important from you without needing a warrant. Your permission. That's called consent. And once you voluntarily consent to a search, you may be giving up one of your strongest legal protections under the Fourth Amendment. A lot of people think officers need probable cause before they can search. Sometimes they do. But if you say yes, you may remove that requirement completely. That's why officers frequently phrase the request casually. "Mind if I take a quick look? You've got nothing to hide, right? It'll only take a second." It sounds informal, friendly, routine, but legally it matters a lot. Now, here's the trap. Most people think refusing a search automatically makes them look guilty. That fear causes people to talk too much, over-explain, or nervously agree. But in the United States, peacefully refusing consent is generally not illegal by itself, and the safest response is usually calm, clear, and simple. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That sentence matters because every word has a purpose. "Officer" keeps the tone respectful. "I do not consent" clearly states you are not voluntarily giving permission. To any searches removes ambiguity about your car, bag, pockets, or belongings. Notice what the phrase does not include. No arguing, no insults, no lecture about the Constitution, no sudden movements. You are not fighting the officer on the roadside. You are preserving your rights calmly and clearly. And that leads to the second major mistake people make. Talking too much after refusing. Here's a realistic example. The officer says, "Why not? If you've got nothing illegal, why does it matter?" A nervous person might say, "Well, I was with some friends earlier and one of them had weed, but not me, and I just don't want problems." That kind of nervous explanation can accidentally create suspicion, contradictions, or admissions. Instead, keep it short. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then stop talking. Silence feels uncomfortable, especially around police, but many people talk themselves into trouble trying to appear cooperative. Remember this distinction. You can comply with lawful commands without volunteering information. Those are not the same thing. If the officer asks for license, registration, or identification where required by law, provide it calmly. But you generally do not have to explain your entire life story to justify why you do not want your property searched. Now, let's talk about another critical phrase. Am I free to go, or am I being detained? This question is powerful because it forces legal clarity. A lot of encounters begin voluntarily. An officer may approach and ask questions casually, but many people do not realize they can sometimes leave unless they are legally detained. So imagine this scenario. An officer says, "Hang tight for a second. Mind if I search the car?" You respond calmly, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to go, or am I being detained?" Why does that matter? Because it helps establish whether this is a consensual encounter or an official detention. If you are free to go, you may be able to end the interaction peacefully. If you are being detained, the officer may need legal justification depending on the circumstances.
Either way, the question is far safer than arguing. And that brings us to another huge mistake. People think roadside debates will win the encounter. They won't. This is not the place to prove the officer wrong. Do not physically resist a search. Do not grab your bag back. Do not pull away. Do not suddenly reach into pockets or compartments. Even if you believe the search is unlawful, physically resisting can escalate the situation dangerously and may lead to additional charges depending on state law and the circumstances. Instead, if officers continue despite your refusal, use another calm phrase. I am not resisting, but I do not consent to this search. Again, every word matters. I am not resisting lowers the risk of escalation, but I do not consent preserves your objection on the record. That distinction can become extremely important later if the legality of the search is reviewed in court. Now, let's cover another one of the most misunderstood situations. What if the officer says they're going to search anyway? A lot of people panic at this point. They think, well, if they're searching anyway, I might as well cooperate and say yes. That is usually a mistake. If the officer already claims to have legal authority to search, your consent does not help you. Never confuse compliance with consent. You can comply physically without agreeing verbally. For example, if an officer orders you out of the car, comply calmly. But that does not mean you have to say, go ahead and search. Those are two separate things legally. Now here's another important warning. Do not lie. Some people think refusing consent means they should invent stories or deny obvious facts. Bad idea. False statements can create separate legal problems. Your safest path is usually silence. If questioning becomes aggressive or accusatory, another important phrase may apply. I exercise my right to remain silent. Short, clear, direct. And if things escalate further, especially towards arrest or serious questioning, say this. I want to speak to a lawyer. Then stop talking. A major mistake people make is continuing conversation after requesting an attorney. They say, maybe I should get a lawyer, but honestly, here's what happened. That defeats the purpose. If you invoke your right to counsel, stay quiet afterward. Now, there's another important reality people need to hear. Police do have legal exceptions that can allow searches without consent in some situations. Laws vary by state, and the exact facts matter. For example, there are situations involving probable cause, plain view evidence, officer safety concerns, arrests, warrants, or certain vehicle exceptions where searches may occur even without your permission. This video is educational, not personal legal advice. The point is not that refusing consent magically prevents every search. The point is that you should not voluntarily surrender rights unnecessarily. And one more thing. Tone matters. You can assert your rights without being hostile. A calm voice changes everything. Compare these two responses. Hell no, you ain't searching anything. Versus, officer, I do not consent to any searches. One escalates emotion immediately. The other keeps the interaction controlled and professional. Remember that officers are also evaluating behavior. Fast movements, yelling, sarcasm, aggressive gestures, or reaching suddenly into bags or compartments can rapidly increase tension and risk. Stay calm. Keep your hands visible when appropriate. Move slowly. Speak clearly. The goal is not to win on the roadside. The goal is to get home safely while protecting your legal position. So let's put the safest framework together. If police ask you to search your car or bag, stay calm. Do not panic talk. Do not argue. Do not physically resist. Do not give consent casually just because you feel pressured. Use clear phrases like, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Or, am I free to go or am I being detained? Or even, I am not resisting but I do not consent to this search. And remember, laws vary depending on the state, the facts, and the circumstances of the encounter. If you want to know what not to say during a traffic stop after an officer says, do you know why I pulled you over? Watch the next video, because one innocent answer there can give police exactly what they need to build a case against you.